Hello and welcome to Math in 5 Minutes with me, Miss Wadzinski. Today's topic is types of triangles. So classifying triangles by their angles and by their sides. Right, let's get right into it. Let's start by talking about how to classify a triangle by its angles. So that would mean we're focusing only on the characteristics of the angles of a specific triangle. The first option is to have an obtuse triangle. So an obtuse triangle has exactly one obtuse angle in it. So in this case, it's the 131. An obtuse angle, as a reminder, is an angle that is more than 90 degrees, but less than 180 degrees. And I encourage you to think about if it's possible to have a triangle with more than one obtuse angle. So consider that as we're going through these three different options. The next option would be an acute triangle, which is a triangle with all or exactly three acute angles. Acute angles being angles that are less than 90 degrees, but more than 0 degrees. So in this case, all three of these angles right here are less than 90 degrees, which makes this an acute triangle. The next type is a right triangle. So a right triangle has exactly one right angle, which is an angle that is 90 degrees. And again, I encourage you to think about if it's possible or what would happen if we tried to make a triangle with more than one right angle. And then we're going to save our equiangular triangle to talk about at the end, because it kind of brings together the two ways to classify triangles, by sides and by angles. So we can also, of course, classify a triangle by its sides, or the lengths of its sides. So the first option is a scalene triangle, which has no congruent sides. We can see by the tick marks on that first triangle that none of the sides are the same length. They're all different. They have no equal sides, so it is scalene. The second option is an isosceles triangle. In an isosceles triangle, we have exactly two congruent or equal sides, and we can see that's the two that are across from each other here. And we actually have two congruent angles in these types of triangles as well, and we call those the base angles. And they are the two angles that are opposite or across from each of the congruent sides. And the final way to classify a triangle by its sides is an equilateral triangle, which is exactly what it sounds like. Equal sides, so all equal sides. So in that bottom example, all three of those sides are equal to each other, making it equilateral, which also actually makes it equiangular. So all three of those angles are also the same. So that is how we classify triangles, by angles and by sides. So each triangle would have two different attributes. It would have the angle classification and the side classification. So you could have an obtuse isosceles triangle. You can have an acute scalene triangle, a right isosceles triangle. But some of the options aren't actually possible. So think about what types of triangles are impossible for you to make. Could you make a right equilateral triangle? Could you make an obtuse equilateral triangle? So think about that as your challenge for this lesson. And as always, happy learning.